Guys, this is Victor from Vitagenics again, and today I'm going to talk to you about part two of the magic of kefir. So you'll see I'm starting here on the ninth slide. Actually, this is where we finished last time talking about proteins. So now I'm going to move over to slide 10 and start talking about healthy fats. I'll try to keep this as quick as possible for you guys. So fat. Fat is much more than just fat. Okay, it's essential. Our body is made of fat, especially saturated fats. Our cells need it. Okay, and you'll see that when we look at a globule of fat, it's not just fat itself, but there are many other bioactive elements attached to the fat. So I'm not going to talk about all of these things, but the point I want to make is that fat is complicated. Now, it varies a little bit depending on the breed or the animal, but basically it's the same, okay? It's a very important and complex thing that we need, or nutrient that we need. Now, homogenization, when we homogenize milk after we take it from the animal, homogenization is very bad. And we see that here in this picture. You can't really see closely, but it's just trying to point out that when you homogenize fat, you have the fat globule with all of the things that are connected to it, and then the homogenization process is rupturing that, it's breaking it because they want to make it smaller. So homogenization or homogeneous is when the fat is evenly distributed throughout the milk and stays there. And it will stay there if it's small enough. And so when we look at cow's milk, the fat globules tend to be very large, and so we get the cream top, right? It separates from the milk. And homogenization breaks down, it ruptures, it breaks down the fat globules so that they will stay evenly distributed in the milk. But this is really bad because we are damaging the fat itself and damaging all the other things that are connected to it. Now, you do have some naturally homogeneous milk. For example, goat milk. The fat globules happen to be a lot smaller, and so they just naturally stay evenly distributed. If we look at something like a Dutch belt cow, the fat globules are smaller, and so you get less separation of the cream. Some of us want and love the separation of the cream, but some of us do not. So anyway, the point is naturally homogeneous milk is fine, no problem. But to homogenize it with our manufacturing processes, terrible. Avoid it at all cost if you can. If you can't get raw milk, try to at least get non-homogenized milk that has been pasteurized at the lowest temperature possible. Okay, so again, fats, they are important and they are complicated. Just taking a quick look here, this is a breakdown of the fatty acids in milk. Again, just to give you an idea of how complicated fat is. There is a lot happening in fat. Another way to look at it, in this case, this is a breakdown of the percentages of the types of fat regards to whether it's saturated fat or monounsaturated, polyunsaturated, etc., and it's broken down by breed. So again, fat is not just fat. It's important, it's essential, and it's quite complex. All right, so moving on to the next important point, enzymes, the digestive enzymes. Kefir is loaded with enzymes. And enzymes are the things that break down your proteins, your fats, and your carbs. And there are many different enzymes. Many of you may have heard of lactase, which breaks down the lactose. Lactose is the milk sugar. So in kefir, it's loaded with the lactase enzyme, along with many other enzymes. And in the case of the lactose, the kefir will break down usually around 99% of the lactose within the first 24 hours, depending on the quality of your process. And if you're doing aging and a second fermentation, you are breaking down all of the milk sugar. Now, Again, kefir contains enzymes to break down not only the lactose, but the fats and the proteins so that everything is pre-digested. That's, or these enzymes are one of the things that make kefir very powerful, because breaking down these things is important. We break down the proteins, and then we get the amino acids that we need to build up many other things in our body. And that will lead us into our next slide, talking about the amino acids. So the amino acids, these are very important building blocks. Milk, raw milk, contains all the essential amino acids that our body needs. Essential means we can't make them ourselves, so we need to get them somewhere else. And now kefir is making those amino acids even more available for us in greater abundance, because it's unraveling some of the proteins, it's pre-digesting a lot of the caseins especially, and giving us so many amino acids. So I'm not going to talk in detail about the amino acids, just know that they're very important for building many different things. Many people might be aware of tryptophan. This is a popular one that's talked about a lot because it helps you sleep better, it improves your mood, gives you ease of mind, etc., improves clarity of thought, and on and on. So another important thing from the amino acids, one of the things that we need to build to stay healthy are the peptides. So peptides, there are hundreds and hundreds of peptides. In kefir, over 200 unique peptides have been identified. And this is really very interesting because raw milk itself has a lot of peptides, but kefir provides us with unique ones. And so this gives us more antimicrobial activity in the kefir, antioxidants, things that help us binding minerals so that we can absorb the minerals into our body. Antithrombotic, this is reducing or clearing blood clots, so reducing the potential for stroke and other such ailments, very important. Another thing about these peptides that's interesting is with the kefir, in the first video, I really stressed about the quality of kefir is very important to really get the benefits. But even when the process of kefir varies, and the probiotic content varies, because everyone's kefir will have slightly different probiotics. It depends where you are, how you make it, etc. But the peptide profile remains relatively the same. Of course, there is variation, but you're still getting most of these powerful peptides that are helping you with all of these different things that are going on. Okay, immunomodulating, I want to just mention this here, modulating the immune system, the immune response. This is another way that kefir helps us to fight disease and such, because it seems to be promoting our immune response when we need it. It's helping to activate our immune system. Modulating means also not just activating it, but perhaps keeping an overreactive immune system in check. So for example, when we have autoimmune disease issues, our immune system is attacking things that it shouldn't be, so we need to modulate that. And kefir is showing these immune modulating properties. Very important. Another key point is we notice that kefir remains highly bioactive even a month after you're making it. And it's not just, again, not just the probiotic content. You know, kefir is known as a probiotic, but there are these other things that are happening in the kefir. And that's what these videos are about, to talk about all the different ways that kefir is powerful. All right, so it's not an anti-everything, okay, but kefir seems to come off that way because we hear in all these different studies. And so again, I'm pulling these things off of studies that are on PubMed, so anyone can get this information, and we'll hear how it's, you know, it's antimicrobial, antifungal, anti-tumor, and generally speaking, it's anti-inflammatory. So this is another thing that's talked about. But what is inflammation? Inflammation is just one of the responses from the body when we are fighting something. So it's a response to injury or a response to attack. And so since kefir itself already has these anti things, it has all these defenses, it is shielding us from a lot of the attacking that's going on, and thus it's reducing inflammation. And of course, there are other things in the kefir that can reduce inflammation as well, be anti-inflammatory. All right, so moving on to the next point, how kefir aids in digestion. This is almost a summary of everything we've talked about because kefir, as we mentioned before, itself has pre-digested content. So the things I'm speaking about here with aiding digestion, these are immediate benefits, short-term benefits, and even long-term benefits. And so we'll touch upon that a little bit more here. When we talk about the enzymes and peptides that are in the kefir, remember these things are being produced by the probiotic content. So as you are consuming kefir on a regular basis, you're repopulating your gut so that your gut biome is now able to reproduce these enzymes, these peptides, etc., more readily, more efficiently, more effectively. And so that'll give you short-term and long-term benefits, not only immediate. Again, other things that aid in digestion when you're drinking kefir, right? It's loaded with all these other metabolites that are necessary to metabolize, to digest. And so it eases the burden of digestion, not only of the kefir, but other foods that you're eating with the kefir, shortly after the kefir, and again, even long after it. One other important concept is the idea of absorption. When we eat food, we do not often absorb everything that we can from it. Our ability to absorb the nutrition depends on the health of our digestive system and again the metabolites, the cofactors that are there when we are eating. So if you're taking in vitamin D, vitamin A, vitamin E, and there are no fats being consumed at that time, no oil, you can't absorb those nutrients because they are fat soluble. All right, so there are so many different cofactors for digestion, and kefir helps to maximize absorption because it provides many of these cofactors. Finally, the logistics. So kefir can be consumed so many different ways: straight, in shakes, ice cream, bread, pancakes, using it to soak oatmeal, tenderizing meat, and on and on and on. So it's relatively easy to make. It's very forgiving in its process. It loves room temperature, a cool temperature of about 70 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit, 20 to 25 degrees Celsius. But it won't die if it gets cold or if it gets hot. All right, the bacteria and yeast balance will change, but it will correct itself when kept long enough at room temperature. So it's a very forgiving thing. It's kind of easy to take care of. If you can't take care of it, you have to go on vacation. You put your grains in the refrigerator for a week, 2 weeks, whatever, and they will become almost dormant. They'll be fermenting at a much slower rate. So kefir is easy to take care of. It's easy to use. There are many uses for it. It's cost effective because once you have the grains, they just keep reproducing, and you just buy the milk. You put the grains in, you ferment that milk into your kefir drink and use that for a shake or whatever, and you put the grains in new milk. You just repeat this every day. So that's it. I tried to get through this as quick as possible, and I think that wraps it up for part 2 of the magic of kefir. Sorry if this was longer than expected. I tried to make it as short as possible. I hope you like it. I hope it helps you get rolling with your kefir and get you on your road to wellness. Thank you again for watching, and I hope you subscribe and like the video. See you again next time.